Hey kids, welcome to another almost all new edition of Love to Hate. I'm Philip Fullman.
And I am Brandon Luna.
So here we are in our own shop. We own our own equipment finally.
Right.
Now all we need is the studio.
Exactly, yeah.
I wish people could see, actually I don't, the setup that we have here and just how makeshift this is. Baling wire and duct tape holding this together, but we own it.
Yes.
And that's the important thing.
Totally
So,
important thing.
So thanks for joining us, especially after last week. If you're tuning in, let us know why.
The show that meant nothing to nobody that's outside of Texas, basically. That was basically what it was.
To be fair, it was early.
Yeah.
And a lot of times early in the morning, things sound like a good idea. And then later you're like, oh, yeah, I should have had some coffee first.
I think that was more of the circumstance. We had someone there that could talk to it, and then we called another guy, and that just kind of happened as, let's come up with something we can talk about.
Right.
Wound up being not necessarily enough to talk about. But,
it was something we did.
And it was fun to do it with friends. It's always fun to do something like that. So.
And, maybe they'll tell their friends, and then they'll tune in, and then they'll tell people. And, that's how the groundswell starts, people. You got to tell your friends about this.
It's true.
And,
it's true.
Like at the end of this show, you can call somebody up and go, I just listened to one of the best podcasts I've ever heard on TV show series finales. You need to listen to it.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Radio Lab or one of those shows. Lore.
No, those are really best. Those are really good too. But A, I don't know if that's their topic this week.
Right.
B, I'm trying to drum up some business.
I'm just messing with you.
It's kind of like when my folks said they were selling a washer, and that as the guy's walking or towing it to his truck, my brother yells out, "Did you tell him it leaks?"
God.
Like, always got to put that positive spin on it.
Right.
So
TV show finales, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
good ones, bad ones. There's a good measure.
There's both, and I went through some lists, but I had some that automatically popped into my head. I don't know if you have. You've got to. I've known you long enough and well enough to know that you're enough of a TV guy that you have certain.
Yeah, I've got favorites.
That you
I've
like.
got favorites, and I've got ones that I absolutely hate.
Where do we want to start? Do we want to start with a generic list or with our favorites and then go from there?
Let's start generic, and then we'll kind of,
all right,
as we go along, we can discuss.
So I just, Googled list and stuff that came up of series finales that I hadn't even thought of. Battlestar Galactica.
Okay,
the new one.
No, the new one. Never saw an episode of that show.
All right, so that was neither have I. So I'm told it was good.
I'm told it was good too. I just never. I was a big fan of the old one, and when I heard about how much they changed the story and all the things they did, I gave it, I think, 1 or 2 episodes maybe, and I don't remember even actually paying attention enough to know what happened in those episodes. I just didn't watch it.
It seemed like it took it too dark. Like it kind of lost the spirit of the original, which was cheesy. To me, it was like the original Trek,
right?
In that, hey, really good stories, but hampered by mediocre acting and cheesy special effects.
Exactly.
But if we could get rid of that, there's a really good story here. So just try to stick with us.
And I love the original one. I mean, that's one of my favorite shows as a kid. That Buck Rogers. You had sci-fi on TV.
Did Buck Rogers even have a series finale?
I don't think so. I don't think it made
it was
just
canceled. So it's just like we're at the end of this. I just watched a show like that with Michael Rosenbaum, Impastor. It was a TV Land show.
Okay,
2 seasons, and the premise is he's, I don't know, con man, something like that. A guy who runs into problems, owes money.
Okay,
ends up impersonating a pastor in a small town.
Is this the guy from Murphy Brown?
Michael Rosenbaum is the guy who played Lex Luthor on Smallville.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought you said Michael Pastorelli. I don't know.
Oh, no.
Completely.
No. So he's in it. Sarah Rue, David Rash from Sledgehammer.
Gotcha.
But it was one of those shows that was canceled. So, I mean, ends on a total cliffhanger.
That sucks.
Don't know what happens.
I hate that.
So, and it was a decent enough show. But, that just ended. Boom, done. And I know there's been other shows like that. That was what I was thinking. Buck Rogers, that was probably one where it's just like, no.
Biggest cliffhanger ending to a show I can think of that made me physically angry where I threw something was probably Deadwood. Deadwood ended with a total cliffhanger, and this show's old, so we're going to go ahead and forego spoilers. If there's spoilers, sorry, you probably should have already seen this stuff, whatever. But it ended basically with there's going to be this big showdown. These guys are coming in from out of town. These guys are coming in. Everybody's meeting in the street. There's going to be this epic, gunfight, and then the show got canceled.
Aren't they coming back with a movie, though?
They were supposed to. I don't know if that's ever going to get done. But and everybody's freaking old now. I mean,
Yeah, it's kind of hard to bring those shows back when it's like, oh, it's kind of lost something.
Right. And a lot of those guys have gone on to do big things. Like Ian McShane, he's a pretty big actor now. You got Timothy Oliphant, who's been doing all kinds of stuff. So.
Yeah, he's in Santa Clarita Diet.
Right.
So let's. I'm of two minds here. Let's go to talking about ways to wrap up a show. Do you remember a show with Daniel Hugh Kelly and Elizabeth Pena called I Married Dora?
No, not at all.
Okay, it was on for like a season, maybe two, to be generous. He was the guy from Hardcastle and McCormick. Elizabeth Pena's gone on to do other stuff.
Right.
And in their series finale, the show had already been canceled. On the series finale, she's flying off somewhere, but they're in love. She starts out as his maid. His wife's died. They fall in love, but she's leaving. And then she gets off the plane because you've changed your mind. Or no, he's getting on a plane. He's leaving her.
Right.
And comes back and you've changed your mind. He goes, yep, we've been canceled. And that was...
Are you kidding me?
No.
That awesome.
That was how they did it. It was just they acknowledged it thanks for watching.
That is awesome.
So that was rather meta, but it was a nice way to wrap it up because they knew...
Did you watch the show? I mean, was it a show where they always breaking the fourth wall on the show?
No.
They just totally broke the fourth wall for that moment.
That was the first time they'd done it.
That is awesome.
So, and I just finished. No, it's too embarrassing. Never mind.
What?
No, I just finished watching Hunter.
Oh, I love Hunter.
Yeah.
Why is that embarrassing? Hunter's TV's...
Well, because probably because I watched the last season without Stephanie Kramer. It was
right.
God.
Yeah.
But it was one of those, it just ended.
He's Dirty Harry, yeah.
It was just well, here's the story. Okay, we're done. Really, the sixth season, when she left, would have made a better wrap-up.
Right.
Because it tied together more storylines instead of extending it out.
Yeah, sometimes they do that. They tend to sometimes take them a little bit too far. Once you lose a primary or... a big one is when, if there's a love interest, love triangle, or whatever that finally gets resolved and they go beyond that, it tends to kill a series. Moonlighting's a prime example of that. I mean, they never should have got together. They
could have rebuilt the tension. They slept together, but it's a mistake.
Right.
And then go from there, and then maybe if you want to wrap it up, get them together at the end. Now, the thing Hunter did, oddly enough, here we go on another trail. The characters slept together, but they didn't address it in the show. Well, they addressed it in the show as a flashback.
Right.
They're arguing about something, and this happened 2 years ago, so they have to go see the police psychiatrist, and then they realize, oh, this is unresolved. We slept together 2 years ago and never talked about it.
Oh, wow.
So they did get together, but it didn't kill the chemistry because they never
didn't deal with it
going
in the
forward.
show. Yeah, right. So it wasn't like a season of them dealing with their feelings.
Right.
I thought you were going to say they slept together and then woke up and he was Clint Eastwood and she was Sandra Locke, and you're like, what?
No, that goes to my all-time favorite,
and mine as well.
Newhart.
Best ending to a series
ever,
hands
down.
That
was to me. I was working at a talk station at the time, so we had a TV in the studio, and I was watching it as it was on. And when she flips on the light, I just lost it. I fell out of the chair. I was like, that is the most brilliant thing. It was so hilarious. So for those of you who may not have seen or be familiar with Newhart, it's the second show Bob Newhart did, the first one called The Bob Newhart Show, in which he's a psychiatrist who is married to the lovely Suzanne Plachette. Then years later, he does a show called Newhart, where he is married to Stephanie somebody. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But he runs an inn in Vermont, and then it gets to the last episode, and they're trying to figure out, okay, there was a lot of speculation, how are they going to wrap up the show? And they're like, oh, they're going to kill him off, like in Dallas or something like that. So sure enough, he gets hit with a golf ball. Last episode, blacks out, wakes up in bed, And he's like, honey, you won't believe what happened. I had this weird dream. We owned an inn. I owned this inn in Vermont. There were these 3 weird guys. Mm-hmm. We had this woman who worked for us, and then this handyman, and this. I think he said something about my wife always wore tight sweaters. Mm-hmm. Was the line, and then all of a sudden you just see the other light turn on. And it's Suzanne Plachette from the previous series, and she's like, go back to bed. So the whole series was a dream from the first series.
Right.
Which was just brilliant. I'm not explaining it well enough. You'd have to see them both. But
it was great.
Just to know that, no, the whole, not just that episode was a dream. Everything was a dream from his original TV series. He's still a psychiatrist married to Suzanne Plachette.
Right.
And then she turns out the light. And they wait a pause, and she turns it back on. She goes, what kind of tight sweaters? Or I think he said, you should wear more sweaters.
Right.
Yeah.
That better than the other show that ended in a dream, which I think pissed off a lot of people, and that was St. Elsewhere. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Where it's the whole show took place in the mind of an autistic child.
Right, because he's looking in that snow globe at the...
First
of
all,
hospital.
Who makes a snow globe with a fucking hospital? And number one, I mean, how sad of a snow globe is that you're making a snow globe with a hospital?
I was with you till I saw the snow globe in the hospital.
Right.
That was big at the time, and the viewers felt screwed.
Right. That pissed a lot of people off.
Like, wait, none of this is real.
Right.
And it was one of the doctor's sons. Mm-hmm. I don't remember which one.
I don't remember either.
But yeah, that was the whole series never happened.
Right.
Just his autistic kid.
There's a couple of them out there that piss some people off.
They're very divisive.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Lost was divisive. I was never a Lost fan, so
yeah,
I don't really... I know what the result was.
Right.
But I was never into it, so I wasn't disappointed.
Right.
Did you ever get into Lost?
I was into it the first couple seasons, then I gave up on it, and then when I heard how they ended it, I was just like, well, I'm not going to go back and watch the rest of that. That was a total waste of time. So
gotcha. There was that one I remember divisive, and people fall on both sides. The one I remember watching where it was divided as far as the opinion, The Sopranos.
Right.
Where'd you fall on that one?
I thought it was a fine ending to it. I thought it was a fine ending because I half expected them to go into films. I really did. I thought it was a good enough show, good enough character base. People liked it enough that they could have easily done a movie or two after the fact and really kind of wrapped it up. The fact that they didn't do that, it makes a little sting. It stings a little bit now, but I was okay with it. And I liked the fact that it was a show that ended and you wanted to talk about it. Like, what do you think happened? Was it this? Was it that? Everybody had their own opinion of how that went after that final scene.
The thing... I was kind of like disappointed at first because everybody was talking about Tony dies. Tony dies. They're going to kill off Tony. That's the only way this show can end.
Right.
Tony's killed off everybody this season. They're just purging the cast. Tony dies. And so you're waiting during that last scene as they're going into the diner for him to get shot.
Right.
And you see him looking at the door, looking at the guy going in the bathroom. His daughter's walking across the street, and as the viewer, you're anxious,
right? Totally,
because you're like, "Where's that guy going? Who is that guy? Is he somebody?
Yeah,
is she going to get hit?
Right?
Wait, the bell went off, and as a viewer, you were nervous, you were antsy, and what really sold me on that ending was realizing, wow, I feel just like Tony Soprano does in that scene,
right?
Because that's what he goes through in his head all the time.
Right.
I was like, wow, that was pretty brilliant as far as a piece of writing.
It really was.
To make me feel like him, where he's constantly worrying about somebody's going to try to take him out. He can never totally relax.
No, totally. Exactly. And it made sense. I mean, your mind automatically goes to Godfather, there's a gun in the toilet.
Right.
It's just your mind goes to other things and it goes to dark places because that's the way the story's always.
And we started filling in for the writer things that weren't there.
Right.
So I did like it. I don't know. I think it makes more sense than just, well, there's a bloody shootout and Tony's laying there dead and Carmela's looking at him.
Right. She's holding him and crying and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, and again, there's so many lists, but talk about a good finale where your character does die and you expect him to die. Breaking Bad.
Yes.
That was very well done.
It was. Great. I honestly, that's one of the few shows I can say where I even liked the bottle episodes, and they really didn't start doing those till later in the series, where they had the one episode that doesn't really carry the story forward, but it's unique enough that you like the episode,
right?
Like the one with the fly, him trying to get the fly, and it was a great episode. And a lot of people were like, "What the fuck was that? It didn't do anything." I'm like, "No, it's just a good piece of writing. It's it's something different, and it keeps you interested in the show." I thought so. There was not a bad episode in that series. There wasn't.
No, I don't think so either.
There wasn't a point in there where I was like, "Oh, come on!" I went.
It never jumped the shark.
No, it never did, and it was great.
It was solid throughout. Like you said, even the bottle episodes, because each one gave you insight into a character.
Right.
So it was never wasted. It was never just. It was a bottle episode, but it was never filler.
Right. And they didn't do enough of them where it felt like a device to push the show longer. Right. Like, I think Walking Dead is horrible about that. They'll do bottle episodes back to back, and you're like, come on, because it'll end like someone just got shot, and you don't know who it was. It's like the JR thing, and then you get 3 bottle episodes in a row, and you're like, get back to the fucking story. Like, what's going on, guys? Yeah. And then they'll come back with it, and it's like, it jumped 2 years, and you're like, what the fuck? So it frustrates you as a viewer.
We had nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'd read an article, and I don't know if he said he was going to do it or he thought about it. Vince Gilligan was talking about doing a show about Jesse after he left and what happened to Jesse after he got out, which I would be interested in seeing. Now, I say that as a guy who's got like 3 seasons of Better Call Saul that he needs to catch up on.
Me too, yeah.
And from what I understand, it's amazing.
Yeah,
Vince Gilligan's a solid writer.
He is. He's a very good writer.
But that to me, just that Walter, they wrapped up those storylines. Walter, for as much as he could, atoned. And that was, I think, that moment with his wife when he finally is just on. She goes, don't tell me you did it for this. And he goes, no, I did it because I liked it. Just all bullshit aside, no, I really just like being this guy.
Right.
And that's why I did it. So he finally being honest with himself, trying to make right by Jesse, which there's no way he ever could.
Yeah, after letting his girlfriend die of a heroin overdose on her own vomit and shit. I mean, just the awful shit that he did to him.
And the 2 lines in that entire show that have always stood out to me, one in the first episode where he says, chemistry is about transformation. Because right there it tells you what the show is going to be about. It is going to be about Walter White and the transition of him going from being the teacher to being the drug lord.
Right. Being Heisenberg, basically.
Heisenberg, yeah. The name skipped me for a second. See, that's what I like about this show. Is like, I miss it. You're there with the rebound.
Right.
The other, and I think it was the next to the last episode, where Hank was out there and they were captured by the neo-Nazi guys, and Walt is begging for his life. Take all the money you want. He's a good man. Don't do this to him. I'm the one you want. You can have all the money. Just spare his life.
Right.
And he looks at me and goes, you're the smartest man I know, but you're too dumb to realize they decided to kill me 10 minutes ago.
Right.
And I thought, wow, that is very telling. Because for as smart as he was in some ways, he couldn't read those people.
Right. Yeah.
And he couldn't figure it out.
But that's what kept him alive for a long time, though, I think.
How so?
To a degree. Because he didn't have that expectation. He was kind of fearless in a way. Because he was so dumb about the whole story, the whole arc of who he was dealing with. I think he always kind of thought he was untouchable. And I don't know why he would think that, but it seems like he had moments where that's how he was. He just became Heisenberg and said, fuck it, I'm this guy and you're not going to fuck with me.
10 feet tall and bulletproof, too dumb to realize that he can get hurt.
Right. So great show. I love it. It's one that I've watched more than once all the way through, and it's always entertaining. So let's work on your list. What do you got?
Let's see here. Still getting used to this new equipment. So we talked about Newhart, The Sopranos, Frasier.
Frasier.
That had a really good finale as well.
It did.
Where what I love about it is they didn't tell you till the last scene what was happening.
Right.
So basically this woman he falls in love after, 7 seasons, finally meets somebody that he doesn't screw up the relationship with.
Right.
And she leaves town. He's, of course, got the radio show in Seattle, and I think she's back east. She went back east, something like that. And the whole thing was, is he going to be with her? So the whole thing, he's on a plane and kind of remembering what happened in their relationship earlier. Should he follow her? What's going to happen? And then in that last scene, you hear the stewardess say, "Welcome to Detroit," or "Welcome to," I think it was Chicago.
Yeah.
"Welcome to Chicago."
Right.
And you realize he did follow her and decided now the relationship was worth it and ended up leaving Seattle.
Right.
So they were able to do it without the long goodbye.
Right.
Without the, "Oh, Daphne, I'll miss you. Niles, I'll miss you, Dad." Didn't have to do any of that. You know that's already taken place.
Right.
Very heartfelt, I thought. Very touching to just realize, oh, this is what he's done.
They kind of pulled a Hunter there a little bit, well, because the Hunter, you had this situation where they slept with each other, but they didn't deal with it. It's just boom.
There you go. Which makes it efficient storytelling, and the viewer then gets to kind of fill in.
Right. And I think there's a certain sense of realism to that, even though it was a sitcom. That is, I hate the shows that end with everybody saying goodbye, and then it's this big schmaltzy thing, and I think there's certain people that like that type of ending to a show. I'm just not one of those people. It doesn't feel honest to me to end a show that way. It feels like fan service, and I'd rather have a good story. Okay, go ahead.
I can think of one show that ended that way that I bet you liked.
I did like that one. I know what you're going to say. MASH. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the only instance of that. I think there was so much invested in that, though. There's shows that do it the wrong way that didn't last as long, like Mork and Mindy or whatever, but, you know what I mean?
Did that have a series finale?
I don't know. It just sucked. Once Jonathan Winters got on there, it just kind of went south.
Oh, yeah. Jonathan Winters is the son.
Yeah.
Which, can you imagine being on that set? How the hell do you get anything done?
No. I don't know. With those two guys?
Oh.
Jeez.
There's a clip of the two of them on The Tonight Show. And it's just wind them up and watch them go.
Right.
It's just, you lose control of it. And it's hilarious. And it's like, when do they stop?
Right.
When do they come up for air? So, but MASH, there was... I guess you get invested in shows, you get invested in characters, but that was a little bit different because it was never just a straight up, hey, we're a sitcom. And It really wasn't. It was a comedy, but it wasn't a sitcom.
Right.
And they would have episodes that there were funny moments, but it was a very serious episode.
Right.
And there's no way I can do justice to just the way they did that, but just realizing the bond these people shared.
Right.
And now they've got to say goodbye to one another because really at that point they are family. Maybe closer than family because they've gone through things that most families don't.
Right.
And then, of course, CBS quickly turned around and shit on it with Aftermath.
Aftermath, yeah.
But that was to me, even just watching that, I was probably high school at the time.
I mean, you had
touching.
You had a decent spin-off with Trapper John MD. I thought that was a pretty good show for what it was.
What was it a spinoff though?
It was the same character. It was just a
but it took place. It took place completely different time frame, completely different actor.
Right. Still in that. It's still in that. It survives in that universe, though. And
I remember when they first started promoing Trapper John MD.
Right.
One of the clips was from MASH. It was like the overhead shot of the 4077.
Right.
And then talking about this is what happens to him. And then you look, it's like Pernell Robertson and Wayne Rogers.
Right.
No resemblance.
No resemblance at all.
I was like, what was it? Wayne Rogers wasn't available?
I wasn't old enough, I guess. I don't know. Who knows?
No, he would have been old enough. No? I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was pretty much the only thing I remember Pernell Roberts from other than Bonanza.
Right.
Did that have a series finale?
I don't know.
Man,
I don't remember watching.
Look that up.
I don't remember watching Bonanza as religiously as my dad did because I know it was it was a Western show and he liked Western shows and we had to watch it, but I don't think I was invested in that show as much as he was.
Well, it was you're like me. You probably caught it in reruns,
right?
So nothing is in order,
exactly.
So it's not like you're following along with the saga of the Cartwrights. It's just like, oh, it's this episode,
right?
Gunsmoke must have had a finale.
They had to have a finale, yeah.
Yeah, after what, 20-some years, they had to have
right.
They had to have had a finale for that. So speaking of shows about that time period, or took place, The Fugitive,
Yeah.
David Jansen.
Right.
72% of all households with a television watch that finale.
Wow.
That is still a record.
Wow.
That is the one MASH did not beat.
Really?
More people watched the end of The Fugitive.
Interesting.
Which was a great show. It was a good movie with Tommy Lee Jones and Harrison Ford. But yeah,
Right.
that was the one that kept everybody riveted. Like, what's going to happen?
Was
What
it the
will
same
happen?
thing? Was it Pervasic? And I don't remember.
No, I don't think it was Pervasic.
Yeah.
But it was a one-armed man.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Gerard chasing Richard Kimball.
Right.
And I think it took place, if I remember, at an amusement park is where it wrapped up.
I was going to say in space, because they do that.
Speaking of, let's jump there. Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Right.
What'd you think of that finale? What was it? A 3-parter too? I think.
I think they did okay with that. I don't know. I was kind of out on Next Generation at that point.
Really?
I think, yeah. That was one of those series that it took me probably 2 seasons to really get into it, because I thought the first season was basically just rehash of the old Star Trek episodes. Like, most of the stories from the first season were kind of redos or retellings.
It wasn't great.
Yeah.
Enjoyable to me, but yeah, not a great first season.
Right.
Of course, that all turned around when Riker grew a beard.
Right.
That's when things started to take off for him.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and I think at that point they'd gotten rid, or Denise Crosby had already left the show, and so Worf then took over.
Yep.
But I don't know. Maybe it was. I mean, it was her decision to leave.
Yeah.
But it seemed like it gelled a little bit better.
Did she do the Playboy thing before or after she left?
Probably before.
Okay. So it
Would
might
be
have
my
been
guess.
her decision, quote unquote, to leave the show. You know.
Can't have you naked on a family show.
Right. Yeah. Tasha Yar getting naked in Playboy.
Let's see. We talked about that. Did you ever watch The Wire?
I did. Yeah.
How was that? That is ranked as one of the
show.
top.
Yeah. Great show. Great finale. Also, Homicide: Life on the Street. Did you ever see that?
I loved that show, but I can never find it.
Yeah.
So I've never
Great
been
show.
able to binge it.
Yeah. Fantastic show. And a good finale, too.
Same writer, correct?
Yeah.
Let's see. The Americans just wrapped up. Did you ever watch that?
Never watched it, no.
See, I didn't either. And apparently that was a... well, we're just doing well with that. Anything old, we can.
Greatest American Hero.
That had. I'm trying to think of the finale because I own that.
I know you got it on DVD, right?
Yeah. They actually, I want to say, ended it with a pilot for a new show.
Oh yeah.
How did they? I don't think they used the word heroine. I think maybe they did. The Greatest American Heroine.
Yeah.
And Ralph was given permission to give the suit to somebody else. He had to go out and find somebody, and he found a woman.
Interesting.
And so it ended with a pilot, and this woman gets the costume. Ralph and the counselor end up going away, and then Bill Maxwell's, got this young blonde woman that's now the superhero.
Right.
So, I remember
was
why.
it Hilary Swank?
It was not. That was the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
No, it was Ralph was finally caught in the costume. He saved somebody's life, and people saw him do it because he did it in public.
Right.
And so then, he got on an ego trip. That's what it was. He started booking talk shows and movies and dolls, and then the aliens are like, "Yeah, you're done with the suit, pal."
Right.
And so he had to give it up because he was no longer pure of heart or whatever. So that was how that one wrapped up.
Kind of a Shazam thing going on there, the whole pure of heart thing, huh?
Little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to feel about this movie. I've read the book that it's based on, and I don't know how I feel about that either.
Well, that was a reboot, and because I thought the original Shazam, like it was almost like he was using the kid as a portal, and it was not the same person when he was Shazam. It wasn't the kid. It wasn't like big superhero.
No,
big,
it
right?
wasn't. No, it wasn't. It was Captain, because he was Captain Marvel.
Right.
No, it was a completely different person.
Right.
It was not like little kid, big body.
Right.
He was wiser, and they focused a lot on the wisdom of Solomon, the strength, all of these attributes. But he was definitely not the little kid. He knew he was Billy Batson, but he didn't act like Billy Batson. Billy
Right.
Batson never acted like Captain Marvel.
Right. So when they rebooted it, they did that thing.
Yeah, and that was... DC struggled trying to get that character right, but after they got the rights to it. First they get it shut down,
right.
Then they buy it, and then they can't figure out how to use him, and there's many different retakes on it, and I think one of them did turn him kind of into a little bit of a prick. Mm-hmm. And then in this last one that Jeff Johns did, he's definitely kind of the foster kid, because at first he was just an orphan, good-natured orphan who works at a radio station.
Right.
Then he becomes kind of a little bit more of a jerk, ends up with his foster family, and that's spoilers for the movie.
Right.
Now he's able to share his power with the foster kids in his family, so all of them become a version of Shazam.
Really?
Yes,
okay.
And they all have different powers.
Interesting.
And they all get a costume.
Okay.
Because originally it was Freddie Freeman became Captain Marvel Jr., his sister Mary became Mary Marvel, had a fat dude named Uncle Dudley.
Okay.
Yeah, seriously. And now it's just the kids all get powers. So you've got like 6 or 7 of them. I don't know if they're going to do that in the movie. I don't like it as much. I liked it better when he became the adult. It's not the kid stays the adult, so I don't know how I'm going to feel about that.
Well, they're definitely going for the fun aspect. I think DC's trying to lighten up a bit after all the Zack Snyder stuff, so they might be trying to go a little more Marvel with it.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good thing.
Speaking of...
Yeah.
What do you think of the Aquaman trailers?
I think it looks awful. I think it looks like a big, giant, shiny CGI piece of shit.
Way too much CGI.
But surprisingly, reviews are kind of okay. It's got a 7.0 on IMDb right now. And
really?
Rotten Tomatoes, it's in the upper percentile.
I was reading a comic book blog, and they were kind of the same way. They're like, it's not perfect, but it was fun.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine text me, and I don't agree with this guy at all. He's a great friend. I've known him for years. But he texted me, and he's like, I liked it better than Wonder Woman. I'm like, shut your whore mouth.
No.
You are no fucking way you like it better than Wonder Woman. Shut up. But he's also a big fan of that director and everything he's done with Fast and Furious stuff. So he's,
See, that's where I think it's not going to have a lot of story, and it's just going to be heavy on CGI and Momoa being a dude, bro.
But then again, I mean, that director did do the last Star Trek movie, and I thought that was okay. I liked it. You didn't like In the Darkness?
No.
No?
No.
I liked aspects of it. They brought the whole everybody working together thing, which I think that was probably Simon Pegg's doing.
Maybe. That one was just... No, it lost story. They tried to turn it more into an action flick. You could even tell different director with the quick cuts.
Right. Well, it's the same guy doing Aquaman. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't hold out a lot of hope for it. I need a solid story.
I get that.
And that does not look like it has a solid story to me.
I'm not going to lie. I'm probably going to go see it just because I have a free ticket that I can use to go see it. So, but
did you get it off? Did you do the Amazon thing to go see it early?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought of doing that.
So I'll go see it, but I don't.
Well,
know
let me know what you think.
Feel about it. I don't know.
Is it too late to buy the early bird tickets? I guess it is.
I don't know.
I don't know that I want to go that badly. I can wait. I didn't see Spider-Man: Homecoming in the theater either, so
no. But I am actually pretty excited for that multiverse thing they did. I think that looks pretty fun, and
that does actually look kind of cool.
Been getting really good reviews, so. Hopefully, if that goes well, then maybe we can get more animated Marvel stuff, and it'll expand the universe a little bit, and we'll get to do some things that we couldn't do in film, or at least do them easier,
right?
In animated versions.
Let's see here.
I mean, technically, if you do that, if Sony's going to do that, they could do a whole nother X-Men series, and Hugh Jackman can still be Wolverine.
That's true.
Just be an animated version of him. So
yeah, because I think his whole thing is he's probably tired of the working out and all the work the pre-work that goes into.
Playing
having to do the movie. Yeah, it's a physically exhausting role.
It is. Totally.
Let's see. Got a few left here.
It's funny to look at him, too, when he did the first X-Men and look at him in, like, Wolverine and Logan. He's so much bigger and so much more the character now in later films than he was in the first film.
Yeah, he grew into the role. And Logan was a great movie.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You and I think we watched it over at your place.
Yeah.
Did a movie night.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good time.
Yeah.
We should do that again.
We should.
Let's see, just a few shows here. I don't know if you've seen all of these. 6 Foot Under.
I didn't get through the whole thing.
I didn't either. Apparently a good series finale, though. They jumped forward.
Mm-hmm. One of those.
Yeah. But was very heartfelt from what I'd read. But yeah, I gave up on the show. It just got, I don't know.
Can we talk about a really bad one?
Sure.
Dexter.
On the list. What the hell?
Hated the end of that show.
I hated the last 2 seasons.
I did too.
I think after the Lithgow season, it just jumped the shark.
There. It should have ended with the Lithgow season. That was the perfect ending to the show. It's like you cannot be this guy that goes and kills everybody and not have repercussions. And I thought that was the perfect ending to the series. And it just went south.
The book series went south after the TV show. Mm. I didn't like the first season because it was based on the first book, which I love the first book. And they just too many liberties. I didn't like the changes they made.
Mm. One of my favorite lines, though. Surprise, motherfucker!
That was good. So in the book, who was it? LaGuerta? Mm-hmm. He kills her.
Yeah, I know.
And so totally different
in the little cargo thing or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Lets his brother go. Mm-hmm. So that was completely different.
Yeah, totally different.
And he was a darker character because in this one, he basically injected people, tied them up, stabbed them, then cut them apart.
Right.
In the book, he tortured him. He was an actual serial killer.
Yes.
So a lot more gruesome. The marriage was a complete sham in the book.
Right.
He never ended up falling for her. He did like the kids because they had that dark side, but there was never that committed, loving relationship with the wife where he grew to love her. And I gave up probably after the 3rd book, maybe. It got too, the writing just became poor. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because they were focusing more on the TV show, but yeah, the whole fake your own death, your sister finds out, you end up a lumberjack.
Right.
Yeah, that...
Yeah. I mean, I think the show still has merit, and I think they had to soften the character to make you feel...
To make it palatable.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. Because if he was that gruesome...
Yeah, if he was an actual serial killer that was torturing people and doing all these horrible things, it's harder to root for him as a anti-hero.
But he did it to bad people.
Yeah. Totally true.
So there was that. But yeah, I think just for the sake of television, because you would be showing it, much harder to deal with. Like the who was the black officer, bald, hated Dexter?
Yeah, he was the surprise motherfucker guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So his story of how he ends up dying or gets mutilated in the books, completely gruesome. Like, yeah, you couldn't
get away with that on the show and still have people rooting for you.
No, the fact that he had, and it wasn't Dexter that did that to him. It was another serial killer.
Yeah, true.
But just even the way that serial killer went about killing his victims, they wouldn't be comfortable with it on TV.
Yeah.
Just a little bit too much. But you did root for Dexter, which was why part of you're glad he got away, but you're like, wait, he's doing what?
Right.
Like this, and there's got to be a storm, and now his kid's raised by the gal from Chuck.
Right.
And just too much going on there. Mm-hmm. It didn't work. But like I said, the last 2 seasons of that show didn't work for me.
No, I mean,
I was checked out, and once it got into him having relationships and he wasn't the same character. Speaking of, did you watch Chuck? Did you ever watch Chuck?
I did, yeah.
What'd you think of that ending?
It was good.
I was a little. I wanted her. Yeah, well, it was a good ending as far as stories go.
Right.
But I wish they could have been together instead of just like, well, she lost her memory. But
right.
It kind of served the purpose. But that last season was kind of rough anyway.
It was, yeah.
Once he became more of a spy and less of a geek,
I kind of lost interest in it a little bit.
It did, because he became a little too smooth.
Right.
So I kind of had checked out, but I finished it off, and I liked it. I go with the assumption they got back together. Everything worked out fine, and it was swell, and they were happy and had lots of babies and whatnot.
Not a bad show overall. I enjoyed it.
No. A very enjoyable show. He was in the last season of Mrs. Maisel.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was very good in that.
Okay.
Really strong writing. A great season. A great follow-up season. It didn't have a sophomore slump, so I don't know if you've watched it or not.
I've watched a little bit of it with my wife, but I haven't
really
watched it
good.
All. Yeah.
Really good. I would recommend the second season to you or anybody who hasn't watched the first season, but start with the first season. That way you know what the hell's going on.
Right.
Let's see.
Did you ever watch Downton Abbey?
I did.
Yes. What did you think about the finale
How gay did I just sound?
I did.
Wow. I got way too excited about Downton Abbey.
I love that show. I'm not going to lie, man. That's a great show. Great writing, great characters.
Oh, yeah.
there was a couple things in there that I thought they kind of just glossed over that I wish they'd really delved into more, like him cheating on his wife and stuff. They kind of just let that go. But
it just kind of disappeared.
Right. But great show.
There was so much resolution to that.
Yeah.
Where you got those little moments. It wasn't fan service, but it was those little things that you wanted to see as a fan. Like, she stood up to her sister.
Right.
Where it was like, wow.
Took her long enough. But
she finally told her. And then her realizing, okay, I've been a bad sister. But yeah, very satisfactory ending. I would love to just go back and watch that last season again. But all the writing in that, I never felt like there was an episode where it was padded.
Right.
And they did a marvelous job of working each character into the story. Not every episode featured every character,
right?
But every season you got a little bit more of each character, so you learned a part about who they were, so you were invested in them,
right?
And not every show can balance that.
It's hard to do.
It is, and I don't think Star Trek Next Generation did it all that well.
Well, neither did Star Trek, the original series, for that matter. I mean, it became
true. I mean, but that was just.
Yeah,
that was the way it was written. I think Next Gen tried to balance it,
right,
but didn't necessarily do a good job with it,
right?
Because some characters got weaker episodes than other characters, but they tried to work everybody in, and sometimes it's just a little bit awkward when it's like, oh, look, Wesley appeared on the bridge. Okay, he was on.
Right.
It's like, you just threw him there so we could have him there, and especially in the movies,
right?
It was complete fan service when it was basically at that point. Everybody just wants to see Captain Picard.
Right.
Nobody cares about anybody else at this point except maybe Data and Worf.
Right.
Who I think are pretty much you've got Picard, Data, and Worf, and those are the ones that everybody's really interested in. But with Downton, it didn't feel like, well, we've got to throw them on there so people can see them. It just worked very well. Like it was, this is what is actually going on.
Right. So, there was always the thing I liked about Downton and the way they did it was that if you, as a viewer, if you ever asked yourself, like, hey, I wonder what's going on with so-and-so, and by the time you asked that, the next episode started with that character and you were already finding stuff out that you needed to know. So you didn't have lingering questions that went on longer than they should have. And that was one of the great things about it.
Where it drug out to the point that you forgot about the character.
Right.
And he also did a good job, or the writers did a good job. Even the worst character, they would give you this little just piece where, damn, now I feel sympathetic for Thomas.
Right, that
it's like,
fucking asshole.
It's like you hate him and you hate him and he's like a dick. And then all of a sudden this one little thing, you're like,
oh, poor Thomas.
Oh, man. It's like, so that's why he is the way he is.
Yep.
And you end up just understanding more about them, and it was so well done, and it was a very satisfactory ending.
It was.
It was like, okay, I can move forward with this. I know what's happened with them, and it turned out well for them as well.
Right.
All the deaths happened much earlier, and I remember one death, not surprising. The other one, completely like where did that come from?
Yeah. Which one?
The husband when he died in the car wreck.
Yeah. Other than you knew he wanted to leave the show, that was it.
Yeah.
That was the only reason that happened.
Yeah. And I don't know any particular. I guess you just get to that point where you're like, I want to stretch my legs as an actor.
He was going to go do movies. He went and did movies after that. He's still doing movies. Now he's doing that show Legion, which is a great show.
Really?
If you haven't watched it yet.
No.
Yeah,
based on
Marvel. Based on the whole what you call it, Professor
X-Men?
X's kid. Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Was it on
Great.
FX?
It's on FX. It's got 2 seasons, and it's a challenge to watch.
Streamable?
I don't know, but it's a challenging show, but it's a very well made show.
I would love to be able to talk at some point about this year's crossover for the CW shows, but I feel like somehow we always end up talking about nerd stuff.
Well, yeah,
in
obviously.
Every episode. And as you know, it's funny, as I've gone back and listened, it hasn't happened this episode.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't, I'll be surprised. But there's somebody who gets a mention every damn episode. Doesn't matter the topic, we get a shot in at him.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I know who it is.
Yeah. And I don't know how we do it, but it's very organic. It's not like it's a setup.
Right.
Like, hey, let's take a piss at this guy.
Right.
But it ends up happening very naturally. Let's see. Let's wrap up with a few we've got here. Magnum PI.
Yeah.
The series, the last season drug a little bit. It was losing steam, but I love the way the series ended. If for no other reason than it kind of it wrapped up some loose ends. You had Higgins tell Magnum, "I am what was it? Robin Masters."
Right.
And then only to turn around later at the very end and go, "I lied." just to fuck with his head, and now he's like he doesn't know.
Right.
But the premise is Rick is getting married. TC's there. Higgins is there. Magnum now has custody of his daughter because his wife Michelle died.
Right.
So his daughter is there. They've got all the regulars pretty much from the cast sitting in the audience or in the as the guest at the wedding.
Right.
And the whole time, Rick is telling him, "Hey man, you didn't go for your tuxedo fitting. You didn't go for your tuxedo." He's like, "Don't worry about it. I got it covered. Don't worry about it." And then he shows up late, and when he pops out, he's in his Navy uniform with a severe haircut. And they ask him, they're like, "What'd you do, re-enlist?" He's like, "Yeah." So to me, I loved it because it was a two-parter. Started out with them trying to recruit him back. He's like, that's just not for me. Finds out his daughter's still alive and decides, you know what? This is what I need to do. I need a career. But just to have him come out, and it's like, what an evolution of the character. Gets out, leaves the Navy, becomes the private eye, and now all of a sudden it's like, I've done this. Here's my path going forward for me and my daughter. I just thought it was a nice, happy ending. And Rick never got the words "I do" out. So that was, if anybody cared, that was the cliffhanger, is like, did Rick actually get married? But it was just very satisfying just to see that conclusion to his story and his character. What we got? The Shield.
The Shield. Okay.
Hated the ending.
Yeah, hated the ending too.
It's like, that's it?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Very much a non-ending.
Like, so he works in a cubicle?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it dress code? I mean, that's it?
Yeah.
I was hoping for something more, like a hail of gunfire. Kind of that ending everybody wanted for The Sopranos, I wanted for The Shield.
Right.
Where there's some resolution where he gets his comeuppance. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to people who have watched episodes, and they're like, yeah, he's a bad guy, but, he's not that bad. He's outside the law, but he's still a cop. It's like, did you watch the very first episode? No. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's the one.
He burns a guy's face on that thing.
Well, that's the one where he shot the cop.
Right, yeah.
And so that's the one where you forget about it, and you're like, okay, so he's taking money from drug dealers. They're bastards. Or, he's taking money from, criminals. What's the big deal? He's not hurting good people. And then you realize, no, he actually did. He took an innocent life. The very first episode of the show, Vic Mackey therefore becomes the bad guy, only for him to end up in a cubicle working for the FBI.
Right.
That was a letdown.
That was a big letdown. What else you got? Let's see if you're missing one here. Big one.
Let's see. 24.
24, yeah.
Was that the one you were thinking of?
No, I got another one.
So that one ended with him on the run.
Right.
Which seems about right for Jack, because the last season he goes nuts. They kill his girlfriend, and he goes after, that president. The guy who was the former president that looked like Nixon.
Yeah.
Goes after him, basically burns every bridge he's got. And it ends with him waving goodbye to Chloe, or Chloe watching him and saying goodbye. So I thought that was a good ending.
Yeah, I like it.
It made sense.
And then they had to go bring the
And then he comes back.
Yeah.
And then, so I watched this with my daughter, and she loved the show. Thought it was great, understood the ending. We watch Live Another Day. She loses her mind at the ending. Hates it. She's like, he goes to... No! And I'm like, he did it for Chloe. He loves Chloe. He realizes she's the only person who's really ever been there for him.
Right.
And he can't... She's like, he didn't have a gun on him? He couldn't... There had to be a way. He's Jack Bauer. I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
He sacrifices himself for Chloe the only way he knows how.
Right.
So it made sense. It was disappointing because you want Jack to get the happy ending, but I think as you watch the show, you kind of realize Jack doesn't get a happy ending.
There's no happy ending for Jack Bauer.
No.
There's
It's just
not.
the lifestyle he's led. It's just his life ends one way.
Right.
Or he gets one ending. The fact that he did it for Chloe, that I think made the difference. And again, that said, you didn't really need that season.
Yeah.
It was unnecessary. There were parts of it I liked, but they could have left it.
Yeah,
I think they just wanted to get a little bit more mileage, and then they did that new 24 that
was awful.
Yeah,
awful.
The writing on it I did not care for.
So bad.
And of course now he's president of the United States.
Right, yeah.
I haven't picked that show up. I watched up until the break of the first season.
Yeah,
me and too. Haven't picked it up.
Actually, I saw the rest of the first season, and then I just stopped watching it because I just lost interest. But
and it was 24-esque.
It was 24-esque, yeah, in ways. But
the way it was always the counter plot. You've got the plot, and then this side plot, and then you never know really who to trust, or is what you're seeing really what you're seeing.
Right.
I think he did a good job of not playing Jack Bauer, though.
Right. Yeah, he did the opposite of what he did on.
He really
24.
did. He
very meek, kind of.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought they did a good job of that, so it wasn't the same character.
It was all in the glasses. It was just because he was wearing glasses. That's what it was.
And that's one show you can't do stunt casting and bring in the guy who played Chloe, because then they're like, oh, it would never work. It's got to be its own standalone show.
That'll be the one where he wakes up at the end and he's Jack Bauer. And he's
there you go. It's just like,
next to Chloe in bed, and she broke him out of prison, or something.
That would be. That could be the greatest ending ever. That might top Newhart.
And then Newhart walks in. What are you doing in my inn? You guys have been here for 3 days. You're squatting. Get out of here.
Yeah. Jack's laying there bandaged up. Chloe had to take him to the inn because he was shot up, and she had to bring him back.
There you go.
Joanna, that was the wife with the sweater.
Was, yeah.
She would be the one, yeah.
Nice recall.
Thank you. A
little
too late.
I got one, I don't know if you have it on there. Seinfeld.
Yes.
Horrible ending to that show.
And I just read an article, and they were like, no, that was a great ending. Like, no, it sucked.
It sucked. It was just such a non-ending. It was just like, you realize in that last scene that, and you didn't, I think everybody realized it before, but they're fucking horrible people, They're just really bad people overall. And for them to be in that situation and have not learned from it, just means they're still bad people. But I still hated the end of that show. X-Files?
I don't have that on the list.
Yeah.
How did that... I know they had the kid. I don't know, and I've still got an episode or two from this last season they just did. How did that wrap up?
It just says most of the episodes from X-Files reboot season saved it from its forgettable finale in 2002, which didn't have anything to do with the show that it had become. By that time, David Duchovny had left, but the series finale brings him back to wrap things up. Instead of capturing the spirit of the show, it's a huge step back instead of a leap forward. So I guess he came back and wrapped things up because Doggett wasn't doing it, I guess. Doggett wasn't everybody's favorite character, the guy from Terminator 2.
Yeah,
so
Robert Patrick.
Yeah.
Now, see, another one they brought back was Twin Peaks, and I had read something about how good that was, but I don't know where I can stream that because I watched like the first 3 episodes of the new season. So I don't know how that ends.
Now, I didn't watch this show. I've seen it occasionally on television in hotels and stuff, and it's moderately entertaining. But 2.5 Men?
No,
did you
never
ever
watched it?
So this is interesting. Get this: in an absolute disgrace, Charlie, portrayed by someone who's not the show's former star, Charlie Sheen, dies because a piano drops on him. The camera pans to the series creator, Chuck Lorre, who says, "Winning," which was his catchphrase. Then the piano drops on top of Lorre, and then the camera pulls back to the show, to the set of the show, and then it ends. So, yeah.
Was that how it ended?
That's how it ended. That's how the show ended.
But they already had Ashton Kutcher on there, right?
Right, yeah.
But they still ended with killing off Charlie Sheen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
Talk about not being able to let it go. I think,
right.
You're continuing the show with another actor. Why go back to that?
I don't know. It's awful. Friends is another one that was listed as a really bad ending.
Don't remember what happened there.
That was one of the fan service. Everybody's together and saying goodbye and all that stuff. It was just kind of lame.
Okay, so here's one that ended on a cliffhanger, and then there's the other show that it was part of. Angel. What'd you think of the ending of Angel?
Never saw it.
I did not like the ending. What about the end of Buffy?
Yeah, I was okay with that.
It made a little bit more sense. Angel was very disappointing.
It was. From what I hear.
Yeah, they tried to, and I've got one of the graphic novel, or one of the collections, the trade paperbacks of the story they told in the comics, but it didn't work. And as you look at the story told in the comics, it's like, yeah, you never could have pulled this off on TV. Right. This never would have worked. But I was disappointed in that. Buffy was okay. That whole last season, though, was unnecessary.
Right.
I felt that went on a little bit long. So, yeah, those were two that were so-so. But Angel was more so disappointing just because it's like, well, what the hell happens now?
Right.
Only got a few left. Actually, two.
Okay.
Mary Tyler Moore Show. Did you ever see that ending?
I did, yeah.
That was a good ending.
Mm-hmm. And then you had Lou Grant after that and everything else. So
yeah. What I loved about her ending was, again, very much just you can tell that they've become a family. But the funniest part of that episode was everybody gets fired except Ted Baxter.
Right.
The biggest idiot at the station.
Right.
Who's horrible at his job. He gets to keep his job.
Right.
Everybody else is out on the street. Like, how the hell does that happen? So I thought that was I thought that was well done. A good bit of comedy without, not a sitcom.
Right.
A funny show, but not a situation comedy.
I think it also spoke at the time to, that was their way of dogging news media at that time because it had gone the way of the talking head.
That's
and,
true.
You know, it leads kind of into broadcast news. That's a big fan of that movie. It's a great movie.
That's a great.
Yeah. Network for that matter, you know.
Oh, network spooky.
Yeah, it is. It is
because
especially you watch it now and it's like,
oh yeah,
holy
it's like
shit,
man,
yeah.
It's like I just watched that guy.
I know,
but then he got fired. Mm-hmm. Last one I got on the list, Mad Men.
I never saw it.
I did love the ending of it.
Yeah.
The last season was a little rough. Draper kind of goes off the reservation a little bit, and he ends up in some hippie compound. Mm-hmm. And there's a scene, I don't know if it's the last episode or close to it, but he is staring closely at a Coke machine. He's just kind of taking in the Coke machine. Mm-hmm. And he's still, and then at the end, he's at this hippie compound. I think he got a call from the ad agency like, hey, how you doing? Come back, because he took a leave of absence because he was going through so much. He obviously had the drinking problem, and then I think he hooked up with some hippie, which is how he ended up
in the compound. Yeah,
in the compound. And so it ends with he's kind of out on the beach in this class with these other hippies, and they're doing yoga and meditation. And so he's sitting there, legs crossed, and you know his hands in the little okay sign on his knees, and then he gets a smile on his face. I think they were talking about, we just got this account. Could you come back and help us on it? And then a smile comes across his face, and the series ends with, I'd like to teach the world to sing the Coke commercial. And I thought, oh, that is perfect.
That's awesome.
He spends time with the hippies, and he comes up with one of the greatest ad campaigns of all time.
That's fantastic.
I thought that is perfect. Now, they never say he did it, but it's like,
that's
okay.
the assumption.
You
yeah.
put it together. He's looking
right.
at the Coke machine. And I think that's what it, maybe they had the Coke account, and he couldn't figure out what to do with it.
Right.
And then it all just comes together. It's like, oh, that is too perfect.
That's awesome, yeah.
He and again, one of those characters I think we've talked about, not a likable character, not a good person.
Right.
But just as far as an ending and wrapping up, like what happens to him, like, well, he creates an iconic commercial.
That's awesome.
So that was a favorite of mine.
Did you ever watch How I Met Your Mother?
No.
Okay.
No. I heard that sucked, though.
It sucked. Because they basically, and we're spoilers all over the place here, but so basically, you know, the whole show's about how I Met Your Mother, and he's talking to the kids. And it's one of those weird shows that, like, for whatever reason, Ted Mosby doesn't do the voiceover of the old version of him. It's Bob Saget. And I'm like, what? Like, why is that? It should be the same guy. Your voice doesn't change that much as you get older. It doesn't make any sense. But supposedly in the last season he meets the girl that you think is the mother, and then she fucking dies, and he ends up marrying the girl that he's had a thing for the whole series, and you're like, what? It just was such a switch and a stab in the guts. It was just a
wait, wouldn't they have known that wasn't his
No, you don't know. As a viewer, you don't know
Okay.
who the mother is until they finally reveal it, and it was Robin Schabotsky the whole time, and it was the girl that he had loved in the first season, then they just on and off the rest of the show.
And then they kill her off.
They kill off the girl that you think is the mother for Robin, so he ends up with Robin. So there was a fan service.
Had you ever seen that girl before?
You saw her in the you see her throughout the show a little bit, and then they finally hook up, and there's things in the show that lead you to believe that she is the mother, and when you finally do meet her in that last season, you're like, oh, okay, well, this is the girl. But I think also at the same time, people didn't like her. They liked Robin for him, and then they ended up giving him Robin. But it was such a cop-out. It was just a really bad cop-out ending to a series. You know, it's
anytime you try to work that death into it, it can come across as very cheap.
Right.
Like, we're just doing that to like, oh, look, this beloved character died. Don't you feel sad now? You'll always remember the series finale.
Right.
It has to be organic to the story. And I think that's probably, like with a series like that, maybe they didn't expect it to go on that long. So they start scrambling for, how do we wrap this up? What are we going to do?
Right.
Maybe Friends was that way a little bit.
It definitely, yeah. Friends, the last 2 seasons was awful.
I think that's the great thing about, again, BBC shows. They start out with a beginning, and they know where it's going to end.
Right.
They get there, they're done.
Yeah.
The end of The British Office, I thought, was great. It was satisfactory. It stayed with the characters. It didn't, you didn't have any great changes.
Right.
Where all of a sudden it's like, well, now he's David Brent's a good man. No, he's still a prick.
Right.
But it gives him a good ending as well. And that's the problem, I think, like I said, we have here is, well, what do we do now? Mm-hmm. Well, we got renewed. Well, people still want to watch it. Well, now what do we do?
Yeah.
There's and you'll see series start out, and Designated Survivors that way for me. Where do you go with this? How many seasons can you get out of this storyline?
Right.
Where all of a sudden it's like, well, it's got to evolve. It becomes something else. Like, no, but that's not what the hook was.
Right.
So I think that becomes problematic for some of these shows. ER, did you watch that?
I did, yeah.
What'd you think of that finale?
I remember being indifferent about it. I don't remember being like that big of a deal for me.
Okay. I had only watched like maybe the last 2 seasons of it, so I wasn't like, oh my God, they're back.
Right.
But I remember that was kind of the general consensus.
It was yeah. I mean, it was just a cheap shot. It was really kind of a cheap shot. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard. I think it is really hard when you have that much invested in a show, when writers have changed, when everything's changed, when cast has changed, to bring everything back to that, original feel. I think it's pretty difficult to do that.
No, because the writer, just one writing change,
right,
can completely alter the feel of the show.
Right.
Now, hopefully, there's a show Bible where it's okay. Here's the tenets of this character. Mm-hmm. This is their personality makeup. Stick with this,
right?
Because if you don't, then a writer can come in and completely change that character, and that throws it completely off, and you're going to lose the audience.
Mm-hmm. Which happened with the new 24. I mean, it really did. You had all new writers, and it just was a completely different show.
It wasn't. And
feel.
they made the comment. They kept the clock because they're like, that was really the thing that made the show unique. Was it was real time. They're like, no, it became the Jack Bauer show. It didn't matter the clock, any of that. It was people wanted to see Jack Bauer. And you're missing that point by saying you can bring it back with the same idea, but people will care enough about another character.
Yeah.
They won't.
No.
That was the whole idea.
Yeah.
And I think there's those certain characters you just never can replace. I'm trying to think of a show where they tried to do it on 2.5 Men,
and they tried to do it on Roseanne.
I never really gave a damn.
And Roseanne got kicked off the show, and then they had the family show with.
Didn't that just get renewed too?
I think it just got canceled. I thought.
Did it? I never watched. But there's always that instance where, and what's successful with it, oddly enough, soap operas.
Right.
You can always swap out actors on a soap opera.
True.
And fans will revolt, but it doesn't seem to have the impact it does on primetime TV. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine if somebody tried to replace Larry Hagman?
No,
in
not at all.
his JR? It's like that's never going to happen.
Right.
Nobody's going to buy that.
Yeah. What'd you think of the finale of Dallas?
Didn't see it.
Didn't see it.
No, I know. I'm a bad Texan.
It's a good finale.
What happened?
I don't even remember, but I remember being good.
Okay, there you go. Well, apparently everybody lived because
Right,
they brought the show back on TNT, and then it became one of those just, I don't know, a very serious, douchey
Right.
Soap operas like they do now.
Oddly enough, we just watched a thing on Netflix about the 70s. I guess there's a series on Netflix about the 80s and like TV shows and stuff in the 80s. And they talked about Dallas and Dynasty and Falcon Crest and all those.
Right.
And I remember watching them as a kid, but not being super invested in them. But I'm kind of interested in like going back and watching Dallas. I think that'd be kind of fun to go back and binge watch Dallas.
I remember that was the first time you heard the phrase primetime soap opera.
Right.
And I remember we would watch it. My mom would always be like, "Oh, don't turn your head" or something. And it wasn't, it's nothing like what you would see now. But to her, it was like, "Hey, you don't need to be seeing this. You're a little kid." And my aunt was over, and she was there, and she and my mom are watching Dallas. And my mom starts cracking up, and I don't know what the hell happened, but my mom is just losing it. And my aunt can't figure it out. And what happened was Sue Ellen came on, and my aunt made the comment, "She looks better since she's quit drinking." And it was like, my mom's, she's not real, right? I mean, she's an actress. It's just the level of concern maybe? Of just like, oh, good for her. I'm glad she's on the wagon. She was like, and we talked about it once I was older, and she's like, yeah, that's way too invested in that show. Just totally lost. Yeah. But okay, I totally get that. Where you you just lose the character and can't see that it. Hey, keep in mind this is still make believe. And I think from my point of view, I would look at it and go, oh, they're doing a good job showing that without saying it by the way they're doing the makeup. They're showing improvement. I would think it, but I would realize, okay, this is a construct of the writers and the makeup people and whatnot. So I wouldn't get quite that into it. Wow, I guess it's time for our episode finale.
Yeah.
The show's not going anywhere. We're going to be back with our own equipment and everything. So hopefully we rebounded a little bit with the show in the Nielsen ratings. We were talking about something we know, which is TV shows. So hopefully you guys, want to listen to us talk about stuff we know and give you our opinions. And as always, they can give us their opinions of the things we've talked about and us. Where would they do that?
Well, you can go to Instagram at Love to Hate Pod and send us a little message there. We post stuff on there so you can comment on what we're going to be talking about and what's coming up. I mean, obviously we've already recorded it, so we're not going to include your comments necessarily until the next episode.
Not till we get that studio and we can do this live.
Right. We can do it live, you can also go to Facebook and like the page on Facebook and give us comments there. Also, Twitter, at the Twitter sphere, you can go to Love to Hate Pod as well and tweet us there and let us know what you think of the show.
Nice. All right, kids. Thanks for joining us for another week. We will talk to you. Oh, and a Merry Christmas to them.
Yes.
And to you as well, my friend.
Yeah.
Take care, kids.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. God blesses everyone.
I don't know where the stop button is on this thing. It's upside down.
Please don't edit this out.